The final forecasters are ready to clash it out in the Elestriad for a chance at immortality and becoming a divine rune in Elestrals. We've got one heck of a matchup today with Swolelax throwing down against MBT, two incredible Thundercasters who have dominated all season long. MBT was selected as a team captain from his performance last season, and when given the option to pick any content creator in the world to join his team, he picked Swolelax. Let's see if that choice comes back to haunt him in the semifinals. By the way, this is your last chance to pre-order Daybreak as it begins shipping on the 16th, and all orders over 50 USD will receive the incredible Stone Tablet Pharaohgeist promo, as well as us tossing in a free Organized Play tournament pack exclusively with pre-orders right now, so head to shopelestrals.com and don't miss out. The Thunder Mirror match is here, and I'm really excited to see what decks these two cooked up. Swolelax, you're up first.
I didn't think it would have to come to this. What's up, my Nimbugs, and hello, Elestriad faithful. My name is Swolelax, and welcome back to an exciting top 4 of the Elestriad. So, one huge thing you might notice right off the bat is that Brontiglow is in the side deck. I am facing MBT, my own team captain, who asked me to be his +1 a couple months ago, and I didn't think I'd have to prove to him my strength just like this, but turns out we're gonna have to go Thunder E Thunder inside of this match. And so I'm building my deck accordingly. So we're actually gonna start with the side deck because I think that's gonna tell more about what we changed versus what going over the main deck would do anyway. So the big portion of this is that you've noticed that Brontiglow is on top because we are siding in Brontiglow and the one Thunderstorm, meaning that we might have the 2 Thunderstorms show up in the main deck. You have to stay tuned. But the big thing is I want to go ahead and have a Thunder forward strategy first, and then if I want to side into this, I feel like it's a little bit stronger going second, so that it might be beneficial. I found that inside of the tournament play that I was doing with Thunder a while back. This was pretty solid, so I think in the side deck, this makes sense. Moving on, we also have 3 copies of Galaxy, again, generic beater, pretty good against Thunder, the 1 Ambrosia, and then 2 Thunder Spirits and 1 extra Water Spirit. The 2 Thunder Spirits are going to be replaced by what we saw last week, which was the Fire Spirits, and we'll get into why that is in a second. So that's the side deck. The big thing with it is I just wanted to make sure that my going first turn was going to be as strong as possible. So because of that, we are playing a fairly more traditional Thunder build. We'll go into that, everyone say it with me. 3 copies of Astro Rabbit, 3 copies of Elichick, 2 copies of Zeus, 3 copies of Jolton, 2 copies of Olympus, 2 copies of Race to the Top, and unfortunately, 3 copies of Sparkhead. And that's going to be the Thunder lineup for this deck of this week. Again, a little more straightforward than normal. And then we are playing 2 copies of Quackle, 2 copies of Toxeon. Now, what's interesting is I kind of talked about this a little bit in the last week's deck profile, but I do like the idea that at one point in time we can either heal ourselves or we can burn MBT for damage. Quackle, I think, is really good into the Thunder matchup because it'll allow us to outgrind if he's also not on Quackle. So I think that's going to be the main idea, is that we're going to be trying to switch it up. Either we're going to have an option to burn or heal, which I think is great. In addition, for the Thunder package, we have 2 copies of Thunderstorm. I think this can take out some key removal as well. It can take out things like Olympus or Zeus if we really need it to be. As well of the Thunderstorm, we have the 1 copy of Lavalith in the main. Obviously, things like resting on your laurels is very powerful into Thunder, and I'm deciding not to play that this week because I think it actually just might be more beneficial for me to slap down a big Lavalith, which is really hard for Thunder to get over. In addition, we also have 2 copies of Nectar of the Gods, 2 copies of Ambrosia because we are playing the 3rd on the side, and we have the 2 Quackles, yada yada. For the Premier removal, we are playing 3 copies of Earthquake. This should allow us to steadily and very readily get over any sort of threat. We have 2 copies of Gorgon's Gaze, 3 copies of Shield, and also change from last week, we have 3 copies of Tsunami in the main because Thunder, while very powerful, all of their guys have such little booties that Tsunami is great for flipping it over, turning them, and then also hitting over now with our smaller guys. So that is the lineup of runes inside of this deck. But I think that we should be able to take this strategy and do something with it. Again, I'm not exactly sure how much the Thunder v Thunder matchup without things like Altar of Stars is going to be. I'm actually pretty scared of Joseph just flipping over Altar of Stars and just gaining mass advantage, but I think that it might be fine. I think a Tsunami is a strong enough card to carry me over the little defense. I think that we can play very smartly with things like Shield of Achilles and just bouncing back just key cards and key removal. But But other than that, this is probably my most terrifying match that I have to play inside the top 4. Well, of course, outside of Josh, which hopefully Trish beats Josh. So that's, we're praying. We're really hoping for that. Outside of that, though, I'm really excited to face MBT here in a couple months, because clearly I'm recording this in the past because my hair grows longer, yada, 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 editing magic. With that being said, though, I'm looking forward to facing off against Captain My Captain and showing him what I got. So, let's get it.
I love seeing the Quackles on Swolelax squad. That sustain and recovery can open the door for some impactful plays like Thunderstorm. And as always, Spark It is a huge threat, we know that. Let's see how MBT plans to deal with this incredible Thunder package.
Well, folks, I hate to do this, but it's time that I take the life of my co-captain. Today I'm going to be playing against Swolelax in what I presume will be a Thunder Mirror. May the best Lightning caster win, and unfortunately that's unlikely to be me. Swole has accolades of absolutely incredible finishes on this strategy, and I've got one Elestriad out round where I played against Wirtz throwing. I do want to talk about my deck a little bit because I think it's at least a little interesting. You all know Astrabbit, you all know Sparkit, you all know Elichick, you all know Jolton, you all know Toxion. You're familiar with Race to the Top by now, Mount Olympus. I'm on the triple Zeus, I'm on the triple Altar, I'm on the double Gorgon's Gaze, the triple Shield of Achilles, the 3 Earthquakes because we lack removal, the 1 Tsunami. Guess what has my other 2, and the 2 Ambro. But mostly I want to talk about the 4 additional slots in my deck. So, I am going to be playing 2 copies of Resting on Your Laurels, which is not particularly shocking. It's one of the best remaining cards in my pool. But the thing that kind of scares me about this card is that I think Swole is the best person in the world at playing around this card. If you watch back his finals of the webcam tournament that he played at the start of Frostfall season, in games 2 and 3, he just never ever played into Resting. Like, in Constructed, of course, you're playing around Lavalith as well, which I know that Swole has, regrettably, but it is so painful that I know this is going to be so dead in games 2 and 3. And then I'm playing 2 copies of Divine Blessing. They served me well in the previous game. I'm not super excited about these, but I think that in the Thunder Mirror, there's a possibility that the winner is the person who, like, sticks their Astrabbit, and, like, the ability to actually perform a Nexus with Sparkit is so, like, unbelievably important that, like, trading this for an EQ or something could conceivably be good. But I could also see a lot of scenarios in which it's just completely dead. In the extra, we have, and the 3rd Ambrosia, I should probably be maining. I'm also playing a Quackle. I think that in the Thunder Mirror specifically, it's so important to just be up on spirit count, just because the deck just burns spirits like nobody's business, but gets this huge rate of return on them. But not so much that I feel comfortable maining Quackle. I think that, like, he just trades so unfavorably, I'm a little scared of it. I'm on double Poison Nectar. I've gone up on this because I know that Swole specifically doesn't have the same card quality as I do, and is playing cards like Nectar of the Gods. So, like, theoretically, this can come in if I see that he's really in on drawing. Double Chains of Prometheus. I don't know how I feel about this card. It's really screwing up my spirit math in the spirit deck. But theoretically, it exists to, like, trade profitably into a Tsunami. I think in this matchup, I'm supposed to be the aggressor because Tsunami is such an incredible defensive tool that I just don't have access to, and this is a way that helps me press advantage. 3 Pandora's Box. Swole has played, like, a weird Narpoon list a couple of times, and I think it'd be throwing if he did that here, but on the off chance that he is, you know, it would be nice to ensure that I don't get, you know, cryo-linged out of the game. And 3 Thunderstorm, I think, is pretty powerful as well. I imagine we're going to get into Rune Wars almost immediately, but don't feel comfortable playing it until I am absolutely 100% sure we're on the mirror. This is going to be a tough one, both because Swole is such an important member of the Emperowatts team. Was responsible for pretty much every important decision that was made. Things from, you know, deciding who we were going to draft and in what order, to the elements, to helping so many people just try and up their game to finally end up beating the Cryo Scorches. In many ways, I was the Oz the Great and Powerful of this team, while Swole and also Trishula were the men behind the curtain. But it's time for me to get back to the curtain and, like, show him who is the great and powerful, you know?
MBT with the fighting words at the end, and with Thunder Nexus, anything is possible. I love the addition of resting on your laurels and Divine Blessing, as Blessing can be huge in the right moment to stop a Swolelax Earthquake or some of his other strategic plays. Without further ado, the semifinals of the Elestriad begin right now, with Swolelax kicking this off with a mulligan. He's going to toss out 2 spirits and get a brand new hand, but MBT's going first, and it looks like he is going to toss a Thunder Spirit to the Underworld and draw. No, he's going to grab a Fire Spirit rather and draw a card. So he's going to opt to expend to draw on the first turn here, perhaps looking for some advantageous plays. This puts him in a very susceptible position, though, to a potential Spark and Zeus combo. We are going to see that Thunder Spirit and a Jolton. MBT grabs his face in fear of that Spark It, but no, it is just the Jolton grabbing a Mount Olympus. And don't forget, both players can take advantage of Mount Olympus in this clash with their Race to the Top and, of course, their Thunder Elestrals gaining that benefit. So utilizing that card to its maximum effectiveness is going to be crucial to being able to maintain a positive board state and keep those threats off the field. I think the caster that's able to find their Astrabid first is also going to be able to generate tremendous advantage here. So that Jolton is going to leap forward and take 1 Spirit of damage from MBT, but not a terrible position for him to be in, as he does look to try to find an Astrabid of his own. It's going to be the Elechick, so that'll give him his own searching potential to seek out that Zeus, the Divine God of Thunder, which can strike down the power of Jolton and provide offensive pressure, but ultimately does open himself up to offensive plays like Lavalith on Swolelax end, something to keep in mind. Zeus, that statue Divine Zeus from Shattered Stars, looking super clean. He's going to go for the disenchant right away, drop the attack of the Jolton, and force a Shield of Achilles on Swolelax end, bouncing the Elechick back to his hand. Not a terrible outcome for MBT. He doesn't get the destroy on the Jolton, but he does burn up one of Swolelax's face down runes, and he's going to be looking to do it another turn, trying to get some momentum back here. Swolelax, I think, ultimately does get a really good kind of exchange there, though, because that Zeus did burn a spirit, so that Shield of Achilles ends up being kind of a neutral play on his end in terms of spirit change. Looks like he goes for an expend to draw here, not looking to advance his Elestral board state, but rather enhance his hand and options as we move towards the later parts of this clash. 1 Spirit of damage on MBT's end. He's going to draw and begin to try to mount an offensive, trying to find some sort of pressure here, but he gets the Astrabid. That's the opening that he's looking for, and I said that the player that finds Astrabid first might be able to gain the biggest advantage here, as now he can look at the top 3 cards of his deck and add 1 of them to his hand. We might see him seek out something like an Earthquake, potentially some more removal. That could be incredibly advantageous. This could have been an opportunity if MBT had the counter rune play to put the Rabbit on offensive and actually use Zeus to disenchant, drop the attack of Jolton, and maybe attack directly. Or take it out rather, but Swolelax going to make the same play on his end with the Astrabid. This tells me he might be looking to make a Race to the Top play because he put his Rabbit in attack position. That makes me wonder if he's going to try to make this play here. Here comes a Thunderstorm. He's going after one of these face down runes after the Rabbit finds its target. Which one of the 3 is he going to go after? I think you definitely go after one of the 3. I don't think you take the Zeus, but it looks like he does take the Zeus. So maybe he was a little nervous about a potential Altar of Stars play. Here comes the Earthquake, so he had the removal after all. Doesn't even need the Race to the Top. Earthquake shatters the field and destroys the Astrabid into a big pit, and it's not going to be able to provide the defensive presence for MBT for any longer. Now with Jolton and Rabbit on the field, they're going to be able to attack directly, and here comes a Tsunami on MBT's end. It's going to cost him 1 spirit to save him 1 spirit, but unfortunately it also puts the Rabbit in defense position, which is less favorable. MBT quickly answers in his turn with an Earthquake, gets rid of the Rabbit, and now he has an opportunity to take this field back if he can get through this Jolton. Spark It hits the field, proves to be an incredible decision on Swolelax's end to take out that Zeus, but MBT responds with the Thunder Divine himself. Once again, Zeus strikes down to the field with his bolts, and he's going to Nexus onto the Spark It and immediately pressure the hand of Swolelax. Toxion, Jolton, and Mount Olympus. You probably go after the Toxion if you're MBT, because that thing is going to start to shred away your health, your spirits every single turn. The Toxion goes down, and now MBT has an opportunity to put on an offensive assault, but Swolelax with 3 back row, inevitably one of those is going to be able to respond to the Spark It. We know it's not a Gorgon's Gaze, though. We know that Swolelax does not have Gorgon's Gaze face down. He most likely has something like another Shield of Achilles or perhaps a Tsunami. The double Earthquake on MBT's end, going big to try to get an advantage here. Here comes Sparkit with the attack. Is it a shield? It's a tsunami. So this next turn is going to be massive. If MBT can keep his Sparkit alive against this incoming Jolton, it's going to be huge for him. Let's see what Swolelax is cooking up. It's going to be that Thunder Spirit. It's going to be that Jolton we saw in the previous turn. This has enough attack to get over the Sparkit, but the question is going to be, does MBT have a counter rune play to stop the offensive here? We're likely not to see the Mount Olympus unless there's a race from the top. He's thinking about his play. He sets another rune face down. He is going to attack with the Jolton. Does MBT have an answer? A deep sigh from MBT as he debates his next play. It's going to be the Altar of Stars. He's probably going to Nexus off of the Sparkit onto the Zeus, change the position of Jolton, and that actually gives him a really good position to be in because he can now hand rip again, which is likely to just be a Mount Olympus, but he can also put offensive pressure on the Jolton, and if he finds an Elestral, this could be massive, especially if it's an Astrabbit. He's going to go for the Nexus, which tells me he does not have the Rabbit. He gets to rip a Mount Olympus out of Swolelax's hand, and the real question is going to be, does Swolelax have the face down rune? He obviously drew something on his last turn and immediately set it face down. If it's a Shield of Achilles, it could prove to be devastating as MBT seemingly does have an Elestral. It's an Elechick that gives him his third Divine Surge. We'll see that third Zeus come out. At the very least, it's thinning his deck. Elechick attacks into the Jolton. Is it going to be a shield? It's going to be a Tsunami. So Tsunami comes out. Big plays there from Swolelax being able to change the position of both the Sparkit and the Elechick and ultimately save his Jolton for another turn. MBT opting to leave his Elestrals in attack position, but now he switches them, of course, to defense. Swolelax with a Thunder Spirit and another Jolton, sees all of his Joltons in this one, gets them both into attack, and MBT is really hoping that he has a Tsunami here. This is where earlier in that clash where he ended up choosing to use a Tsunami to basically save one Spirit of damage could come back to bite him, as a Tsunami right now would be very advantageous. And I generally, when I play, try to save my Tsunamis to protect an Elestral, not to protect my Spirit deck. But, you know, you kind of got to do what you got to do. He did end up getting that Jolt into defense to potentially hit over it. Saved himself some Spirits with Zeus. Shield of Achilles comes out. That's pretty big. He can pull off the Sparkit to bounce one of these. And we're going to find out if he can do it on the other one. Can he stop the second Jolt in here? That is going to be the big question. There's the attack. Does MBT have an answer? He needs to keep his Sparkit alive, and no, he goes down. Sparkit is down, 2 Spirits left. Swolelax after that Ambrosia sitting at pretty with 7 Spirits. MBT is going to need to make a big play here. He needs an Ambrosia of his own. He's going to cast out his Elechick. This gives him an opportunity to potentially crash into the Jolton, but opts to disenchant his Zeus to hit over it. This is going to be interesting because if Swolelax can't find any more Elestrals, then MBT has an opportunity to actually come back in this one right now, down to just 1 Spirit. Swolelax with something like a Lavalith would be absolutely devastating here. He draws off the top of his deck. He gives a little smirk. What is this play? It's a Thunder Spirit. It's a Jolton again. The one that got bounced back is back, and we're going to see a Zeus of his own. Swolelax with more Spirits to play with, able to use this opportunity to basically debuff the Elechick on the other side of the field and allow the Jolton to attack. And again, even with 2 face down runes, MBT's options are limited here. MBT thinking about his play. He's going to take the hit. His Elechick goes down. He's going to be fishing for an Ambrosia. He finds a Jolton. That's his last Spirit. He can now opt to crash with no back row on Swolelax's end. He grabs his Mount Olympus to thin his deck a little bit further, but again, down to 0 Spirits on MBT's end. He can crash the Joltons, Elechick can hit directly, and then what do? You're forced to try to basically draw into an Ambrosia to save the game. He does do the crash. Jolton does hit directly. It has the higher defense stat, and it looks like it's also, yeah, it is properly enchanted. He takes the 1. Swolelax down to just 3 Spirits to go. All Swolelax needs is a 4-attack Elestral, an Elechick, or any of that. It will seal the deal for him here. Does he find it? It looks a Toxion would also seal the deal here as well. So MBT in a dangerous situation. It's going to be the Elechick. That's exactly what he needs, as Elechick can simply crash into Jolton and secure this first round here for Swolelax. He opts to not do the crash, which I'm a little surprised about. And then MBT is going to pass it back. And Swolelax now debating. I'm a little confused, I guess. What is the potential play there on Swolelax's end for him to lose if he doesn't just crash there? I think that there was no reason to not crash, but he had the Earthquake anyway. He seals the deal there. MBT down to no Spirits, and Swolelax takes game 1 here. Now these two casters have an opportunity to dig into their side decks and potentially spice things up a little bit. We know Swolelax is running that Bronzeglow strategy with his Funglows. We know MBT's got some pretty cool support stuff there. We might see Pandora's Box to kind of mitigate some of the powerful searching tools that these Thunder Elestrals have. Let's hop into game 2 and find out how it's going to show down. All right, MBT looking to mount his comeback here in Clash number 2. Kicks it off with Astrabbit. That's exactly what you want to see if you're MBT to get this advantage. If you remember in Clash 1, he ended up expending to draw and kind of was behind on board state the remainder of the game. This game, he gets exactly what he wants. Rabbit first, gets to get an extra card to his hand, and now we're going to see 2 Thunder Spirits here. Nectar of the Gods. Swolelax allowed to draw 2 additional cards from the top of his deck. Could be instrumental for executing some of the different strategies that we see him wanting to use if he's going to get spicy with his side deck here. I personally want to see Bronzeglow hit the field. I really do. So fingers crossed. Let's see. It's going to be a Thunder Spirit. What is he going to go for? It's going to be the Toxion. So Toxion going to start to pressure MBT's Spirit deck by forcing him to expend a Spirit every single time Toxion receives a Thunder Spirit. However, without the power of Zeus, Swolelax forced to just sit back here. He's not going to be able to take out the Rabbit. So he's going to be sitting here nice and pretty with his Toxion. Definitely a threat. MBT has an option to either cast a new Elestral. He's going to go with the Jolton. That'll get him his Mount Olympus. It also allows him to potentially pressure the Toxion and maybe force a face down rune play. But that Mount Olympus search will be nice as he can now, you know, just thin his deck a little bit, right? We didn't see those Olympus hit the field at all in the last Clash. Neither caster really were using it. This is really a situation where you're thinning your deck out. You're giving yourself a chance to get the other options that you're looking for. And hopefully you can get advantage that way. A big tsunami there from Swolelax as he's going to change the position of all of these Thunder Elestrals on the field. Toxion, Jolton, everyone goes to defense position, and he saves his Jolton for another turn. And now we see why. Spark It comes out, and if there's a Zeus to pair with it, this could be devastating for MBT as he can Nexus those spirits onto the Toxion to burn as well as hand rip. It's 2 Thunder Spirits. It's Zeus. MBT in shambles. Spark It is going to do the thing. He's going to be able to Nexus from his Zeus onto the Toxion, force a burn onto MBT, and also rip a card out of his hand. He can also pressure. Earthquake is so big. Wow. You got it. Oh, he takes the Rabbit, not the Earthquake. An interesting choice there. Toxion moves to attack position. With Zeus's buff, he can now pressure that Rabbit as well and try to gain advantage. MBT has 2 face down runes. Will one of them prove to be tough enough to stop this offensive attack? MBT needs a tsunami right about now. Does he have it? Let's find out. We know he's only running, I believe, 1 from his team builder. Rabbit does go down. That's a huge blow on Swolelax end. And now we'll see the Toxion attack the Jolton. And a Shield of Achilles from MBT. Gonna bounce the Toxion back. An interesting predicament there. You bounce the Toxion back, right? Because it has 2 spirits on it. So you kind of get a more immediate advantage right now. But the downside to that is you're going to be burned a spirit when that Toxion hits the field again, right? So a little bit of an interesting situation, but MBT has the opportunity now to either go for his own Spark It hand rip, but opts to go Toxion instead to try to whittle down on Swolelax. He does have an advantage right now on both the field and spirit count. Toxion going to be able to attack and potentially crash into the Spark It, or the Jolton rather would crash, and then you'd have the Toxion remaining on the field. Let's see if he goes that play. Does Swolelax have a back row here? It looks like he does not. The Spark It does go down nicely on MBT's end, and we're going to see Toxion being able to attack directly for 1 spirit. A great turn there for MBT as he's able to finally gain board control again. Swolelax, we know, has a Toxion of his own, though. Will he respond with it this turn? It's going to be Toxion once again. Going to force 1 spirit of burn damage on MBT's end, and now MBT going to be forced to deal with the potential crash opportunity here. Does the Toxion opt to attack into the other Toxion? They are both going to knock each other out. So we know MBT does have that Spark It in his hand. We know he's got an Earthquake in his hand. He's got a couple different options that he can play with here for the next couple turns. Opting to go for an expend to draw. I'm curious what he's looking to find because I was pretty sure he had an Elestral still. Swolelax going to take this opportunity to get some field advantage with an Astrabit in attack position. This is really advantageous for Swole because not only are you able to get the effect of Astrabit off, but you're going to get a chip Spirit of damage here. And if you're running something like a Tsunami in your back row or a Shield of Achilles, you know you can protect your Rabbit for one turn, so there's really no downside to making that play. Earthquake is flipped over from MBT, not even going to try to deal with it. He's just going to blow back the Rabbit right away, and now his own Rabbit hits the field in attack position. This is going to come down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very close clash at this point, as MBT able to get some resources, but the Gorgon's Gaze from Swolelax, a wise play. I like this play a lot because you stop the Rabbit from hitting you. It only ends up costing you 1 spirit in terms of what you were going to lose at the end of the turn anyway, and you prevent MBT from seeking out that really crucial card that he's looking for. Maybe it's Zeus, maybe it's, you know, some sort of protection. Toxion comes out. That's going to threaten the Rabbit immediately and also force and expend MBT and Swolelax deadlocked at 6 spirits apiece with 1 on field. Here comes a Shield of Achilles. That Toxion's going to get bounced back to Swolelax's hand a second time in this clash. MBT burning up his Earth Spirits, telling us that he probably doesn't have Earthquake in hand. He's going to draw Astrabit ready to go. If MBT can find another Elestral and a Zeus to pair with a Sparkit, that could be huge. Sparkit hits the field. This could be the window that MBT's been waiting for. If he gets the Zeus, he's got the Zeus as well. This is massive. He was able to burn the Gorgon's Gaze on the prior turn on the Rabbit, and now he can pressure immediately with this hand rip effect. Sparkit's going to be able to Nexus from Zeus onto Rabbit, activate Rabbit's effect, and rip that Lava Lid straight from Swolelax's hand. That is massive. But if you're MBT, you got to be worried about the Toxion too. Lava Lid is what goes down. Sparkit and Rabbit sitting there with 3 spirits on the offensive can attack into Swolelax and bring him down incredibly low. Can MBT deal this big blow, or will he be met with a Tsunami? He is indeed met with a Tsunami as these Elestrals, Astrabit and Sparkit, are forced to go to defense position. Swolelax perfectly equipped for this moment in time. Let's see what Swolelax is cooking up here on this turn with MBT down to just 1 spirit. Toxion is massive right now. Toxion is definitely the play if you're Swolelax, in my opinion. Let's see if he goes for it. The face down Ambrosia is massive as he's going to be able to heal up 3 spirits and further his lead. That is huge for Swolelax. MBT down to just 1 spirit, has the field advantage, but Earthquake comes out. That's going to clear the Rabbit. And now Swolelax able to get out Toxion most certainly to deal 1 more spirit of damage and ultimately give himself an opportunity to put on the offensive. Here comes an Altar of Stars play from MBT. Gonna pull it off the Rabbit. Nexus from Rabbit onto Sparkit. Change the Sparkit to attack position. Big plays there. I like that. I like that. He's forced to use it a little bit more defensively here. And here comes the Thunder Spirit. Is it Toxion? It is, taking MBT's final spirit. Here comes Toxion attacking into Sparkit. They're going to crash. They do. He takes a spirit of damage. MBT down to 0. His only out is an Ambrosia on his Zeus. Does he find it? It's a Sparkit. It's Olympus. Swolelax is moving to the finals of the Elestriad, taking down his captain MBT in a dominant performance of Thunder versus Thunder. Show some love in the comment section below to both of these casters. Big shout outs to MBT running it back, going from the finals last season to the semifinals this season, but ultimately his #1 pick for the Elestriad, Swolelax, takes him down. Stay tuned for other semifinals clash later this week.